Sooners of Oklahoma at 12-0 and still looking for respect nationwide.
What is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Barry and Mac Show. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports performance coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and alongside me, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing tonight, D-Mac?
I'm doing good, B. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah. Loud and clear, man.
Good stuff. Excited, bro. I'm going to have a good conversation tomorrow after the scrimmage. So I will be, I can't share everything I hear publicly, but privately, I'll walk you through some of the things I hear. I know you're going to be hearing some stuff as well. But scrimmage day is tomorrow. We'll see what goes on with those young lads. The injury thing, a lot of people concerned about. We'll probably brush upon that a little bit on the show. I'll tell some stories of what I experienced in my camps, because camp is one of those things where by the middle and the end of camp, you're the walking wounded, and then everybody's on the mend as you get into game week. But good. So far, so good. I think the guys are in a position to really take a step forward, maybe 2 steps forward. We'll see how things shake out. I'm still sticking to we got to win 9 games minimum. Mm-hmm. We're a 9-win team. And did you see that? We got like the most top 25 opponents on our schedule in college football, 7.
Yeah.
Us, Florida, I think Mississippi State, all SEC teams have the most games against top 25 preseason opponents. Guess what? I don't care. Let's play ball. So let's get to it.
Absolutely, man. And before we get started, want to shout out OU OKC fan, Boom and Trap House, just for resharing the show. Said I'd give you guys a little shout out before we got rocking. And as always, show is brought to you by OU Insider, OUinsider.com. Go over there, get yourself a membership. We're going to be reposting the show over there during the season. Me and D-Mac also just integrate ourselves in the board. We're posting different things. I've already posted a few things on Jaden Ott, somebody we're going to be talking about tonight, and got some stuff over there about John Mateer that's still floating around. But Rivals on 3 officially kind of a thing now, so it's good to be able to talk about that. Very cool. It's going to be some big stuff from those 2 brands here in the future. But D-Mac, the folks came here tonight for the position analysis, the breakdown of the quarterback and running back room. Let's bury the lead a little bit. We'll talk about running back tonight first. And before we get going, I just want to go down the roster of the running back position, what we're looking at. So one, starting with guys who, may or may not see as much time. You've got an Andy Bass who's now moved over to the running back position. You've got a Gabe Sawchuk who's now moved over to the running back position. But then you get into the guys who are going to be valuable contributors, right? Gavin Sawchuk is gone, so no more Gavin this year. He is transferred out. But you have Taylor Tatum, who has sort of run the gauntlet with the baseball schedule. You have Javonte Barnes, who at this point now is an entrenched veteran. I won't say mainstay piece, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. You've also got X-Rob, who is going to be thoroughly a part of the mix. You've got Torrey Blaylock, who I think we are both fans of his game and what he possibly brings to the table. And then you've got your guy Jaden Ott, man, who is going to be, if not the best running back in the SEC, one of the best. So before I get into my stuff and what I want to talk about, I don't think we'll overlap too much. Just give me your assessment now on the room overall, going from last year to this year, and what OU has to offer at the running back position.
I think skill-wise, we've upgraded the position group. Obviously, when you bring in a top shelf player who's played big time college ball. Obviously, the Pac-10's a little, or Pac-12, whatever you want to call it, it's a little different than the SEC. But Ott's a guy who you give him a little bit of daylight, he's out of there. And I think Ott's also a guy who finds daylight, which is an issue we've had the last 2 or 3 seasons since what's my boy's name that transferred? Eric Gray. Right, since Gray left and went on to the Giants, we haven't found a guy who can consistently find daylight. Chuck had a little bit of that. He was hit and miss. He'd have some really good games, and in other games he disappeared. I don't want to beat up on Barnes too much. I don't want to beat up on him. I used to be a huge Barnes fan, but man, I don't know if you use the word entrenched with anything with him besides returner. So there is that. But Blaylock's a guy who I think he has a lot of razzle dazzle. All right. And OU is looking for people who can make plays. I think if you were to ask what's one word that's going to be synonymous with OU finding ways to win games, the 2025 season, it's playmaker. Who's a guy can make an 8-yard play into a touchdown? Who's a guy that can catch a 12-yard curl and take it to the house? Who's a guy, right, who can make a guy miss and make first down into a touchdown? By the way, Mateer as well. So when you look at that running back room and you say, okay, Taylor Tatum's a guy who as a true freshman had some ball security issues, but aside from that, showed some glimpses of what his potential may look like as, I believe, the number 1 running back in the nation in his recruiting class. X-Rob is a guy who, listen, if nothing else happens with that kid, he helped us beat Bama at home in a down. Like, those are the kind of things where you're going to always have some form of legitimacy as a Sooner. I don't know if that's Sooner magic, but definitely him stamping his name as a guy for approval. And Barry, I'm going to say this last piece and I'll pass it back to you. I think I said this our very first year of the show. I think I said like one of our very first episodes of our very first shows, and it's this. The transfer portal is going to change the way we look at college football. And, you know, a school like OU, who's always on the cusp, I can't say always, because early 2000s, we were the big boy who could get whatever we wanted. But the last 18 years, 17 years, OU has never been able to get past the UT recruiting days back when Mac Brown was there and they had that special. They would have this weekend, every weekend and it was like this one weekend where Texas would bring all these guys. And it was almost like they do a blood ceremony or drink some Kool-Aid or whatever, because after that weekend, it was like all the top Texas kids will go to Texas. If you've been around the recruiting world long enough, you know what I'm talking about. And then right around the time we started, Lincoln Riley, we could get the 5-star receiver, the 5-star quarterback, and occasionally the offensive lineman, but really defense was such a sieve, right? It was so terrible. You couldn't really, account for anything. Even 4 stars was hard to get at that time. The running back room and recruiting in general now is such that teams are saying, I need 1 or 2 long-term plays, long-term developing kids, long-term recruits, because your season changes that fast when all of a sudden you've got and you're doing these preseason rankings and OU's got the number 2 backfield in the SEC. You know what I mean? X-Rob returning and you got a ballyhooed returning player who is highly, sought after in the transfer portal. So I look at the room. In my opinion, it has the necessary pieces it needs to be a plus room. I think that's a room you can win with. You got some quality depth. You've got some explosion. You've got some new toys to tinker with, right? With Blaylock coming aboard and Taylor Tatum, you're going to see what he can do in this offense. And then last but not least, you brought it to the attention of the question, and it needs to be stated. We went from an offense with no identity. We went to an offense where we didn't have a sniffer until week 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing? You remember that? I don't remember what game it was, but I'm like, oh, we have a sniffer. It's the first time we have an offline tight end in like 7 weeks. We're going to have one of the most dynamic offenses in the SEC, and the teams are not going to know how to prepare for us film-wise. So anyway, I'll get into that stuff later. But I think the room's a solid B+, has the potential to be an A-. It has a floor of a B- just because X-Rob got carries, Taylor's coming back, Ott's a guy with a lot of, college football experience. And you've got another dynamic freshman, Blaylock, who's coming in, who we're hearing rave reviews about his speed, his elusivity, and his vision. So that's a room where you feel pretty comfortable, upgraded. And by the way, I didn't even have to mention Barnes.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the floor being elevated, because this is the first time in, I would say, since Gray, and with Gray the proof was in the proverbial pudding, is that they didn't have really any NFL guys back there, DMAC. This is the first season where Blaylock is young and Tatum are young, but they have NFL level explosiveness to their game.
Yep.
Ott, if it wasn't for lack of production this past year, he's a top running back off the board after this year. Easy.
Yep.
He was one of the best backs in the country. Especially, man, what I really liked about his game, getting into the nuts and bolts, was he was so good with almost sort of slow playing it. You talked about this a little bit last year, kind of slow playing it to the line of scrimmage a little bit, not just downhill full speed, but letting things set up and being able to see where the guys are not and just get to the open space. And that was so much of what we were missing. I just posted a couple plays on X where all he does is take a play where the play where it's supposed to go is taken away by the defense. And all he does is take that little shuffle to the outside. He bounces it out, and he has enough wiggle to get that done. A verified laser 4.5 guy. He's going to have some speed to not get caught in most situations. And I think he's a player who, if he has a good year this year with the offensive line that OU, and we'll review that as the weeks come, talk about where the O-line's at. But we believe an offensive line that is better, but definitely better than what Cal put out there a year ago. Ott's first year up there in Cal, they weren't too bad. But, man, this past season, I know he's dealt with ankle injuries, a couple little nagging things. But, man, that offensive line was not good. And then to say one more piece on Blaylock, to me, most explosive back in the room. And if they can get him on the field along with a guy like X-Rob, because now you've elevated the floor, because Barnes is now a rotational guy. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you're talking about Barnes as having to be your mainstay, almost every down back. And last year, he was your every down back for a lot of games, DMAC. And that's just not where he's going to be the most successful. His freshman year, I think he had the most success, and that's when he did not have to do everything. So in your opinion, just kind of some predictions, if you will. Does OU get 1,000-yard rusher out of this room this season, or is it going to be a true running back by committee? And what do you think statistically? How will things sort of break down?
Well, I think in a 13-game season, assuming obviously that 13th game, you've got a guy like Ott. Again, we talked about this last year too. We've got to showcase that OU has turned the corner on offense and is able to create stars. Again, so much of the game anymore is not just about grinding out victory 17-14, right? The game is about, can you create a platform for guys to be stars? Can you create scenarios where guys are consistently in space and having the opportunity to make big plays, chunk plays, right? First downs, touchdowns. I think it's strategically important that OU has run for 1,200 yards, score 10, 11 TDs, and of course in the passing game, do some screen stuff, some quick game stuff, some ISO stuff, some underneath stuff in the isolation game on third and medium, third and long. So when I look at that, I say yes. And again, we're transitioning from an offense that essentially had no identity to an offense that most people say the offensive scheme was some of the reasons Wazoo was able to be in position to win games and be competitive. Again, very akin to Leach, right? When Leach is ROC, just by us being in that offense, and I'm talking 25 years ago now, we were able to be against teams that, maybe in that 99 season, we had no business being close to. Right. We weren't up to speed with talent with Texas. We weren't up to speed. By the way, we weren't up to speed with talent with A&M. A&M was extremely talented in that season, and we beat that ass in Norman. A whole lot to a little, and a lot of that had to do with us being dynamic on offense. And so the SEC, I don't know that anybody runs the offense that we're bringing. There are going to be people I mean, a lot of the concepts, right, are going to be concepts that Georgia has gotten over the hump and said, hey, we better get multiple. Alabama's gotten over the hump and said, hey, we better be multiple. But those guys are still going to want to pull the guard, run gap scheme, get in the B gap, right? Get two guys, get a double team on your backer, get up through the hole, and their running back is going to be good enough to run a daylight. That's really the core of what they want to do. That's not the core of what we're going to be wanting to do. And so our offense is going to be one where teams are going to have to do things a little bit different than what they do most weeks against a team with the type of talent we're going to bring to the table, right? It's a little different if Mississippi State is saying, hey, we're going to run, right, some veer and shoot stuff because that's what Levy likes to run, but they're doing it with a bunch of also rans, 2 stars, 3 stars, whatever. Then versus OU, where you've got a 5-star in Fusasi, you've got a lot of transfers that have come in and been dogs, and you've got Sexton and guys that are coming in with the body style, the athleticism. And so I believe you need Ott to be 1,100-yard guy. I believe you need a mixture of X-Rob, Tatum, and Blaylock to be guys who are just dynamic. They're puppies, right? We need X-Rob to probably be the 2. Especially since Ott's a guy who can go 80. We need X-Rob to be the guy who in the third quarter, fourth quarter, we can lean on. And then we need Taylor Tatum to come in and be a guy who we can get in space. Blaylock's a guy who we're going to try to ISO a couple times. We'll see what he does early in the preseason. But if he's a kid who can go catch a corner out, you flood one way, you run a flood to the strong side of the formation with 3 receivers flooding across the field, and you got the running back leak out and does a backward corner, and he can run away from people. Oh, he's a guy that they'll scheme into the playbook every single week. But minimally, you need those 3 guys to come in and be dynamic, I think is the proper word. And then Barnes is a guy. Listen, I don't want to poo-poo on him. He's a guy. We're probably going to need him 2 games. There's going to be an injury. There's going to be an ankle. There's going to be a whatever. And you need that 4th-year guy who won't fumble the ball, who's going to hit the hole. It's just like we talked about the last year and a half. If he's the guy you're depending on to be the bell cow, 14, 16, 18 carries a game. I mean, we're broken down. There were games where there was daylight there and he literally missed it. And come to find out, talking to my buddies after the season, there were a lot of games where he graded low simply because he didn't make plays that were available. But you have to have a guy like that 4 years into the system who can be there. We just don't. I don't want him to have a game where he has to have more than 8 carries. Then in that case, we're probably in trouble.
Man, let's move over to the quarterback position, because I think that is where we can get into some of the nuances of what OU is going to run. I'm really excited to hear about we've talked about Arbuckle a bit, but now that fall camp is here, we're sort of hearing where guys are falling. Players like Elijah Thomas really showing out.
That was my guy.
And that I know you were pretty high on him early, and it's interesting now that OU has a player who is a verified stud at the quarterback position, going to be a top 3, top 4 player in the SEC at that position, at least, right? You got Nussmeier. You've got a lot of folks still high on Arch Manning down in Texas. We'll kind of see where the chips fall, but Mateer and his ability to get the ball where it needs to be, you're hearing good things about the receiver position. So I can't wait till we preview that. But talking about some of the guys who won't see the field again, OU's got Jet New, I believe that's how you pronounce that last name, or New, Whit Neubauer, guys who are going to give you great looks on the scout. This is probably one of the most elevated, I would say, elevated talent levels on the scout team that OU has had in maybe a few years. Jet really has a lot to offer in terms of arm talent. He's going to be able to give guys looks that are much better for players like a Nussmeier, who can rocket that ball in there and who can catch you sleeping. And they got a bigger guy. I believe, I want to say it's Whit, who's like 6'6", man, who gives you just such an interesting body type to have to deal with, at the quarterback spot. And it's been, and again, I may have those flip, but Jet, his arm was one of the things that stood out to me when OU picked him up. But let's talk about Hawkins and Mateer. Let's break down how you see this going throughout the year. And the reason I ask that is, will Hawkins and his investment in the program already, and sort of his willingness to accept what OU has done with him thus far, is that going to serve this program well this upcoming season when it comes to him being in the right frame of mind to come in for spot duty, to come in and maybe run a package? Is that something Oklahoma is going to be able to do without any of the quote unquote controversy? You know, if he has a good game, maybe Mateer is not playing so well, is OU going to be able to manage that? And then I want you to break down each player respectively.
So first things first, OU's played this game before, and if I'm OU, I'm selling the play we did, I think 6 years ago or 5 years ago with Baker and Kyler, right? It's literally identical, where you have a guy who, in fact, they say Mateer in a lot of ways is like Bake in his, his intangibles and a lot of the things he brings to the table over and beyond just the X's and O's of the game, just right, his ego and his personality. So I want to say, if I'm OU, I say, hey, Hawk, it's his year. But here's the deal. We're going to give you packages and we're going to let you do the things you do. But here's what I really want you to be paying close attention to: the nuances of the position, because next year it's bona fide your year. What we're going to do this year is set Mateer up to be a first-round draft pick. What we're going to be doing in doing so is setting you up to be the back-to-back first-round draft pick. Again, the game is not even the game I played 20 years ago. It's not that game anymore. Like, it's entertainment, right? These guys are brands, some of them $1 million brands, and even the economics of it. Mateer's a $2 million man. Hawk's probably a $600,000 man, right? Hey man, would you be willing to play at your dad's alma mater, make $500,000? By the way, I'm speculating. I don't know what the kid makes, but right, play at your dad's alma mater. Make $500,000 with the understanding of, so long as you're a good soldier this year, next year you're the 5-star general. So just in terms of how we play that part out, I don't know that there's a better quarterback room in the SEC either. I don't know that there's a better quarterback room. Our sophomore had to play half a season with one hand tied behind his back because we had a terrible scheme, and there were games where he played decent. And there were games where he was the best athlete on the field in SEC as a true freshman. If this year I was watching, gosh dang, Barry, I forgot who I was watching, but I was watching one of the college football shows, and it was one of the old coaches, and he said something that I thought was very profound. Here's what he said. He said, a lot of times freshmen come in and they've never experienced losing. They've never experienced hard, right? When I was in high school, I played against a school by the name of De La Salle. They were hard. I ain't gonna lie to you. They were hard. But aside from that, there wasn't a game where I wasn't the best athlete on the field, except for my teammate whose name was Roy Williams. Like, every game I played, I was like, they can't stop me except my teammate, right? And so he said, however, there's something to be said about guys who play as a freshman and then have a de facto red shirt. He said, here's the deal. When a freshman comes in and immediately red shirts, they never get a chance to play college football. They don't know how hard it is. When a freshman comes in and is ballyhooed and has failures their freshman year, they realize how difficult the game can be. But he said, there's something to be said about a kid who plays and then red shirts. He said, they treat it different. Because if I'm a kid who came in and I'm an ass kicker in high school, I play college ball and I get my ass kicked, I'm going to take that red shirt season a little more serious on that squat rack, a little bit more serious on them hand clings, a little bit more serious on them plyos, right? So Hawkins knows what it feels like to be in a team where they're inferior. Hawkins knows what SEC football feels like. Obviously, we're assuming Mateer never gets hurt, but this is a perfect scenario. Hawkins is going to be a man the next time he's expected to lead the team, so long as we're selling this correctly for him. Does that make sense? Like, this season, think about it. Baker's last season, if you remember, Kyler had a couple of plays. You remember when Kyler would come in at running back And then they
Oh
were like,
yeah.
"What's?" And I'd be like, "What's going on?" Like we would be like, "Is there a mess up?" But they were trying to do little option passes and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hawk come in and do some stuff and get a chance to just keep his feet wet. I wouldn't be surprised if in the preseason we turn it up a notch and don't take our foot off the gas in the second quarter. We take our foot off the gas mid third quarter, so Hawk has a reason to play a full quarter and a half, right? When we're playing against some of those teams where we need to get a lead because we need Hawk to get reps and we need to sell him on this idea. So, when I look at this scenario, and Mateer has a lot to prove, and I'll speak to what I feel about that here in a second. But from the optics and the opportunity, like to me, that's so important right now. The optics say OU has a chance for the first time since Link left to say we breed mother effing quarterbacks. Like chest out. You know what I'm saying? Like I got my
Yeah.
OU chest out. Like we don't need Link. We can make QBs without Link. That's a big deal. Because when we had Link, we could pretty much get any quarterback we wanted. Since Link left, it's been very difficult. Since Mateer, which the rumors of he having a relationship with Arbuckle, blah, 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 blah. After this happens, if they play their cards correct, and Mateer is a first round or top round draft pick, and then you go around and you have Hawk, who's in a position with a strong team, right? Assuming we continue to recruit and transfer well, that changes the optics. Now the opportunity, same thing. Like same thing. Nussmeier is not a better quarterback than Mateer. If you took Nussmeier and put him in Wazoo and took Mateer and put him in LSU, there would be no competition. Mateer has better legs. He's more cerebral. Nussmeier had like 4 or 5 games the second half of last season where he was actually pretty good. He was like pretty good
Yeah.
with like ridiculously good receivers. And I think the receivers play a part in that because LSU is going to have probably the best receiver room in the country, or at least in the SEC. And so you got to give Nussmeier that bump. But Mateer is a much better player, a much better athlete with much more experience, being the guy needed to be the linchpin. So the guys who I worry about are the kid at Southern Cal or South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina. He is a
Baller.
player, man. He
He's got
can
to stay
play.
healthy.
Yeah.
He's got to stay healthy, but he's a baller. And I don't want to say nothing good, bad, or indifferent about the kid in Texas, but I just when he gets hit in the mouth, we'll see what happens. The last time I seen a kid get this much notoriety without doing pretty much nothing was a kid by the name of Sims, first name Chris. Say hi to Roy Williams, right? Say hi to Rocky Calmus. Those guys put the stamp of OU all over his chest plate. And Archer's going to be a guy who's in a great scheme with a good coach. With they lost a lot on the line. They lost a lot in the skill positions. They lost their stud running back, who I think he went in the 5th round or 4th round, whatever. The kid was a beast. They lost 2 or 3 of their top receivers. They're gonna reload, but there's gonna be a lot of trying to figure that stuff out. They got Ohio State, I think week 1. I think out the hole, it's Texas, Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2. Quarterback room. Mateer has to prove to us that he is going to be mentally strong. But I believe we have a top 2 or 3 quarterback in the entire conference, if not America, tandeming him up with Arbuckle and all the people that said all the negative things, based upon what I'm hearing, when the offensive line is true and we get Derek Simmons back from he's had a concussion or something, he had some type of head injury. That line is solidified with 8 guys who could all be starters. We haven't been able to say that since the 18-19 Baker, Kyler, Hurts years where we had really good offensive linemen. They're saying, Barry, and I quote, there are 8 starter caliber offensive linemen. They haven't had this depth since Venables has been on the team.
Well, man, and I'll say this too. I mean, even just looking at, and this is just some stuff I've heard, Beadenbow has sort of, even down to him disciplining himself with the weight loss and him cutting some weight, right, man?
Yeah.
That, I hate to be like that, man, but that matters sometimes, and your players see that. And when you argue or can argue that one of the things that has been missing from OU's offensive line position group is buy-in by the guys, man, when you see a coach buy into himself, man, what the new age of players, man, respect and them seeing you do the things that you're asking them to do is big, right? That matters a lot to players nowadays. They want to be able to see the habits, to see the things play out, and to reap success from that. So I think it's a small thing, but I don't think it is nothing. But I'm with you. You know, Mateer, the matchup against Michigan is going to be really interesting because you're going up against a big name, but he's also going up against a freshman, inexperienced quarterback on the other side. And
Ozempic. Hold on, I'm sorry. The comments.
go
Darren
ahead.
Staley said, "Stop it." It was Ozempic. Hey, I
Still,
lost 40 pounds. I lost 40 pounds last year, all natural, bro.
yeah, man. I will argue this though. Ozempic is still that's still big deal stuff. I'm not gonna. It's not quite as impressive. Whatever. Whatever. We'll leave that. We'll put that to bed. It's still impressive. He still made the decision. He still went and got it done. If everybody could lose weight, everybody would lose weight. So I'll say that.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
but you got that week 2 matchup against Michigan, and I think that is it's almost kind of the perfect confidence builder for Mateer. You're in a game where again it's a helmet game. Michigan, Oklahoma. It's a situation where it's going to be very highly regarded. There's going to be a lot of expectations. The crowd is going to be electric. It's going to be wild, and Mateer could go out there and bat a really good game at quarterback, man. And if that happens, I think it bodes well going down the stretch because you brought it up earlier in the show, and I saw something where I believe after week 5, it is possible that OU's second half of the schedule is all opponents who are in the top 15.
Wow.
And that, I mean, you talk about just gauntlet. So, one, getting through those first 5-0 is massive. But then the other
Yep.
piece to that is having the confidence from those, not just skating by like the Houston and the Auburn and games where OU should have been able to run away at various points. I want you to go into a little bit of why there is continuity. Well, when you have a guy like Arbuckle come from Washington State and and bring in a guy like Mateer who had success there, why in the nuts and bolts of this, why is there continuity in that? Is it just Mateer being able to express the system to everyone else because nobody else knows the system? I guess what I'm getting at is why is it so important that the quarterback and OC have that relationship? And obviously not the running back, not the guys on the O line, right? We obviously know quarterback is the important spot, but go into the nuts and bolts of why that is a plus, DMAC.
Yeah, it matters fivefold more than any other position. Meaning if the OC and QB have a relationship, it's 5 times more impactful than the OC and anybody else. And it's very simply because we talk about this all the time, but football is repped, right? It's repetition, repetition, repetition. And whether you're doing you're doing hand signals, visual signals, you're doing a wristband, you're doing some big boards on the sideline. However, you're communicating that. There's a communicator and communicatees, right? So, in other words, there were plays where Hype has meetings with us, with the receivers, and he says, "Hey, if I call Playboy or Hustler, yes, we used to use dirty magazines for our naked. That was our naked. That was our naked audible. If you heard him say Playboy, Playboy, it told us as receivers he was going to run a naked boot, right? The thing is, we didn't always know why. We just knew if we heard Hustler, Hustler, we knew, okay, we got to run naked rules, right? Somebody has to get across the face. Somebody has to go over the backer. Somebody has to run the backside post. Somebody has to in and out, do a whirly bird. Like we knew based upon that. See, the quarterback is the communicator. So Arbuckle doesn't have to waste near the amount of time explaining the what because Mateer already knows what. Mateer already knows why. Guess what the receivers do? Guess what the running backs do? Guess what the line do? They know how. So again, if Arbuckle says, hey, they're in an underlook, let's run some type of zone scheme away from that, right? And let's get the backside backer. Let's pull that free guard and get to that backside backer. The only person he needs to know what and why is the quarterback. Because everyone else just needs to know what? How to do their job, right? So if Arbuckle has Mateer and they too are seeing something, they're saying, oh, the safeties are robbing. Let's run a double post, right, to the backside of the formation. That backside safety is going to be coming down on the in cut. So let's run two posts behind them, put that corner in, and if they're in quarters, put that corner in a no-win situation. The receivers just need to know double post, which means the receivers just need to know whatever the tag is, whatever the audible is, right? Mateer and Arbuckle know the why and the what. And so when your quarterback already has a knack and a relationship and experience and the language and the lingo and the fronts, all of that stuff, it makes it twice as easy because as a receiver, as a running back, as a tight end, as a down lineman, right? The quarterback is the what? Communicator, which is going to be telling us, the communicatees, what to do. And all we have to do is the how. So having the quarterback and the OC from the exact same school in the exact same offense, it's like us have a returning offense this year, right? Because again, what's the likelihood of repping since January? They've been repping since January. And by the way, all offseason, when Leach came in 99, we started running playbook the second week of offseason. I'm not talking about the second week of spring. I'm talking about the second week of offseason. We started instituting playbook the second week of offseason, right? So they've done that all offseason. They've done it all spring. They did it all summer. I promise you they did it all summer. And I promise you Mateer and his top 4 or 5 receivers did extra all summer. So when they make their 10 adjustments, they make their 7 audibles, they do their 5 signals, they check the wristband for the 10 things the wristband tells them to do, the receivers are going to know exactly how to do what they're supposed to do. They just need to understand what Mateer is saying to them based upon what he's seeing. So our offense, I don't anticipate there being a whole bunch of it's a circus out there, because the OC and the quarterback should be in the exact same sight and understanding of what they're doing. And as skill guys, all we have to do is execute. So assuming they've repped it the way I know they have, right? It should be a situation where teams don't feel like they can just trick us, right? O-line knows 4-man up, right? Satellite. 5th man goes up, man block one side, zone block. 6 guys goes up, running back stays in. 7 guys come up, maybe running back's hot. We're trying to, right? So there's rules to 4 up, 5 up, 6 up, 7 up. So all the linemen have to do is recognize it or hear the quarterback's communication, and then they just do their job. It's the quarterback who's a communicator who needs to know, oh shit, they're in 4 weak, they're in 4 strong. How do we block it? Right? He's communicating what he expects. And the OC and the quarterback have done that last season as well. It should be a plus for us way more than it's a minus.
Man, that wonderful stuff, D-Mac. I've always sort of wondered that, because you hear that said when guys come in from the same system, but to hear you kind of quantify why that is important is quite the deal. Man, before we get out of here, we got a few minutes. Let's talk about the injury thing, because we're seeing that come up a bunch. Let's do the 3-minute breakdown on why is it a big deal? Why is it not such a big deal? Obviously you guys who have listened to the show know my history and understanding when it comes to performance and training. And a lot of times, man, sometimes it's just precautionary. Sometimes it is guys just getting too much volume, too many steps. Everything is tracked now. How many steps you take, how many miles you're going. And if you're coming off an injury, they're looking at that. But D-Mac, from your perspective, being inside the building, 20 years ago or so, talk about why it's a big deal, why it's not a big deal. Give us your take.
I'll say this. Last year, I went up to the alumni scrimmage and was flat out told, we need to get healthy or we're in trouble. This year, I think the alumni scrimmage is tomorrow. I'm not going, but I know who to talk to. And the resounding statement was, Mackey, we're good.
Mm.
And so I would just sum it up by saying every camp I've ever been a part of, whether it's the 3 that I played in as a Sooner, really 4, I count Blake's year too. The 4, my red shirt in the 3 years that I played. And when I came back, my cousin played for OU for a season, and then I was around when I was going to do my master's at OU initially. I was around a lot. I've never been to a camp where half the team didn't have a bump, a bruise, an owie, I strains, back strains, hammy strains, ankle strains. That's every camp. Just so that everyone understands, the training staff, the medical staff, and the coaching staff, even the equipment staff and the trainers, they all plan for the first 10 days of camp how to minimize strains, owies. I think the concussion thing is one where, after the whole NFL deal, right? And the liability component, they're always careful about that. But I was told by firsthand by people who would know there isn't a camp injury as of, and I haven't heard anything today, and I know they got a scrimmage tomorrow, so tomorrow will be a pretty resounding day. But Barry, I've heard firsthand there isn't an injury that they have right now that they're concerned about it being an injury week 1, because they're going to go camp another 7 to 10 days, and then they're going to go single practices for a week. Okay, so they're going to go another 5 to 7 days of 2-a-day camps, or not really even 2-a-days anymore, but like, what I'm saying, like camp, like you're fully consumed with camp. It's film in the morning, it's practice, it's weights, and then it's film, and then it's dinner, and you do it all as a team. Then they're going to go to like half day, like a full week of, okay, guys, we'll meet at 1. So that means I get to get up at 9, and maybe I have a position meeting with my coach for a minute, but like I have more free time. It's probably the first week of school, to be honest with you, or the week before. Then they're going to go in game week. And game week is when they're really going to start prepping. They're going to pull back a little bit, right? They're going to let 2s get a lot of chances to go game week. That first week 0 game week, there's a lot of opportunities because younger guys are going to really play in that game, assuming we have a cupcake. And so the guys who have owies are going to have 17, 18 days to rest up, to heal up, to, they want to stay in the flow of things, but not get beat up. It's kind of bad when you don't have a couple of days. Listen, every camp I had hamstrings. There was like 2 practices, like 2 days I would miss practice, and it would kind of be good because I'd come back refreshed. And by the way, every camp, and by the way, that back then, my injury wasn't an injury that half the receivers, Curtis Fagan, Andre Woolfolk, Antoine Savage, and when we would have camp, one of us would miss 2 days every day. I'm telling you, every day. Trent Smith, Hambone, Matt Anderson, every day, bro. Like
That's
2 tight ends are out. When you're in like the meat of camp, every day, it's like 80% of the position group. I'm telling you. And then there's an injury, right? Boom, somebody goes down, broken leg, MCL tear. That's different. But by the way, D Straight, Book, Roy Lee, JT Thatcher, every day we're doing one-on-ones. We're like, oh, Roy and JT are out today. Oh, Ante and Book are out tomorrow because there's owies. Somebody hurt their shoulder, AC joint, somebody, whatever, right? So again, I spoke firsthand to someone who I'm not in the insider game. That's not really my cup of tea. But I do ask and have conversations. And all I say when I talk to people, I say, hey, man, just keep it a buck with me. Like, tell me the truth. Like, people know I pod. People know we talk football. People know that I won't tell. There are things that I've told you offline that, like, Barry, this is going to happen. And we don't say it on the show, and we see it bear out just because that's not my position to be in. We're good. We're good until further notice, right? Knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood out the desk. So as of right now, the injuries are owies, is what I'd say more of.
Excellent stuff, man. Last year was such a massive issue with the receiver room. You ended up filling it in the secondary. You had some guys rise up and get noticed. You had players like Eli Bowen, come out of nowhere and be a dude. But man, you cannot have your best players go down. Your Burks, your Thomases, that the quarterback spot. You got to have got running back. Offensive line, guys have got to stay healthy. And that based on how last year went, that for Venables, that is like a primary essential this season to not have that happen again with as bad of a rep. It's been multiple months now. People forget just how people felt about the program and the training staff when the season ended. Like, we had podcasts
Bro, we had
just
whole
for that.
episodes about the Oklahoma City third party opinion. That was such a
Yeah.
joke. That was such a
Yeah.
joke.
So now you're in a position where you got to know Venables is looking at that. It's in the spotlight. It's something that recruits and players who are transferring in potentially, you want to see success in that department. Also want to see success on the Barry and Mac show this upcoming season, guys. Brand new season, new year, new content. We'll let you know the next two position groups we're going to be breaking down. Probably go to the defensive side of the ball and just keep flipping back and forth. But want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Later show, but a lot of good traction with you guys. Thank you all for sharing the show. As always, DMAC, closing thoughts before we get out of here, man.
It's football season, man. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch games. I can't say that on the air. I think we win 9. I think we win 9 games, and I'm excited to see what we do. Let me just pitch and plug a little something. I got into motivational speaking, and so I went up to Rocky Top, Knoxville, and had the opportunity to speak to Hype's team. And now I've got some more opportunities coming down the door. People are paying me to come speak to their football teams about championship culture. So essentially, transitioning from a college football player and learning what I learned between those white lines as a ball player and in the off seasons and in the locker room and with that cohort of players, and how that transition for me and it could for others in life after sports. And so what are some of the keys and things that I have carried into the business world as an educator, as teacher, and then a principal, and now as a business owner and entrepreneur, and now even a business coach, right? So I coach entrepreneurs now. Jumping into the motivational speech game, man. It's been fun. We'll see how this year goes. I'll keep you guys abreast of the journey. And I want to keep competing. So whatever I can do, I want to compete and do the very best that I can. Excited to see what we do, what we got in store for the season. 9 wins minimum. And I don't like to pick losses, so we'll see.
It's going to be good stuff, man. As always, guys, go over to OU Insider, OUinsider.com. Me and DMAC will be posting over there throughout the year. Follow us on X. Follow us on Instagram at BWise Fitness, letter BWISE Fitness. Damian over on IG is at Dame That Dude. Find him on Twitter or X, whatever we call it again.
I'm Twitter, bro.
It's still Twitter, man.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
At D_Mac13. But above all, guys, we got the audio and the video coming out for you all. Make sure you share, subscribe, and let people know to come and watch it on the old YouTubes, on the Spotifys. Go to Apple, get your listens in there, man. Wherever you can listen to podcasts, let people know about it. Please share the show and subscribe to the YouTube. We still have a lot of people who view the show, DMAC, who are not even subscribed. It's like 78% of the listeners who listen aren't even subscribed to the show. So subscribe to the show, guys. But as always, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you soon.